My mother was too preoccupied to raise a child, so, in her infinite wisdom, she decided to turn my older brother into a nanny brother. She constantly drilled a single concept into his head. Everything in the house will belong to you someday, and that includes your little sister. My brother believed her. And so, while other heirs were out on the town drinking and partying, he was playing dress-up with me. While other trust fund princes were drag racing and chasing girls, he was watching videos of my childhood, set to ridiculous, soothing soundtracks. Which meant that when I discovered I was a foundling, not a biological daughter, I had only one thought. I'm screwed, my brother is going to lose his mind. But then I saw him smile, his gaze locking onto me like a wolf spotting prey, that he said the word dripping with dark pleasure is just perfect. It was a Sunday evening family dinner, and my mother Nadia was chatting animatedly with my aunt. You wouldn't believe it, back at Ava's first birthday, the grabbing ceremony, she ignored all the toys and candy, and she just grabbed onto Declan and wouldn't let go. And Declan, he was such a handful as a kid, he'd barely smile, and even I, his mother, was nervous around him. Now look at him. He practically raised Ava. He's like a built-in Manny. When Ava said she was moving into the dorms, he looked like the sky was falling. Manny, was that a term you could just throw around so lightly? My mouth twitched, but before I could reply, a steaming mug was pressed into my hand. Ginger tea. Declan Sinclair settled naturally beside me, his knee pressed against mine, his arm wrapped loosely around my waist, his fingers beginning a slow, light circular massage on my lower back, still aching. Ever since my first bad cramps, he'd been more attentive to my cycle than I was. Truth be told, I barely felt anything now, but with all the relatives watching, I felt my face flush. I tried to pull away, keeping my voice low. Declan hummed an acknowledgement, then lifted his eyes, his gaze cool and distant, to the relatives across the table. It's getting late, Aunt and Uncle. I think you should head home. He tossed the blunt dismissal out without apology, ignoring their clearly offended expressions. He only looked down at me, his eyes asking, "Is it time for us now?" I had truly been raised by my brother. I heard that in the beginning, he hadn't wanted me. Even as a small child, he had his own sharp logic. He'd argued against my mother's irresponsible behavior. "She's your baby, Mom." "She's not my baby," my mother had been amused. "Why isn't she yours? Everything in the house will belong to you someday, and that includes your little sister." Declan took the line to heart. From then on, he became my willing, tireless nanny brother, taking charge of everything. When I was sick in the hospital, my mother would stammer in response to the doctor's questions. Declan would answer fluently and perfectly. Even my mother had once marveled, "Declan, you really have the instincts of a parent." Declan took it as the highest compliment and doubled down on his care. Even now, he was standing in the doorway, his expression a mix of weary tolerance and total certainty, as if I was the one being unreasonable. I wouldn't meet his eyes. "Dec, I'm an adult. I can take care of myself." His voice was flat. "You said that last time, and you ended up in the ER with a migraine. That was just an accident. I can't afford another accident. But this is wrong." Seeing my hesitation, he pushed the door open, easily slipping inside the room. He tilted his head, his expression a picture of genuine confusion. "What's wrong about it? You're mine, baby." The first time I realized that pet name was too intimate was during my college orientation week. Freshmen were required to stay in the dorms by our university. Declan showed up, his face a thundercloud, to help me make my bed. He was striking, handsome in a way that screened elite air, yet he was expertly managing sheets and duvets. He even retrieved my required gym uniform, carefully adding a soft waist belt and specialized insoles. My roommates stared, their faces flushed with envy. "Ava Sinclair, your boyfriend is incredible." My expression froze instantly. I quickly whispered, "He's my brother, my actual brother." "Oh, then why does he call you baby, and you guys don't look alike at all?" I could only mumble an explanation. "He raised me. From that day on, I strictly forbade Declan from calling me that in public." Although he didn't seem to understand the reason, he listened, but as soon as we were home, he doubled down, stubbornly calling me baby. "You're not allowed to call me that." I grit my teeth, pushing against his chest to keep him away. Declan just nodded, utterly unbothered. "Whatever, baby wants I gave." Up, it was useless arguing with him. I had a lot on my mind last night, and when my alarm went off, my brain was still foggy. Unfortunately, I had an 8 a.m. class. Declan pulled me out of the covers. Baby, open up. I groggily brushed my teeth. He then meticulously washed my face and applied my skincare routine. Only after everything was done did he settle me back on the bed. My clothes for the day were laid out on the chair, already chosen. He tilted his face toward me, seeking his good morning kiss. I gave it to him in a daze. Thank you, big brother. Be a good girl. Tell your brother when you're dressed. By the time I was fully dressed, almost half an hour had passed. 20 minutes of that was silent, internal screaming. I thought about how utterly useless I'd been, like a total infant. Just hours after my big independence speech, I felt deeply embarrassed. My mind was a blur until my class ended. I tried scrolling through my phone to distract myself. Then I saw a post that stopped my hand mid-scroll. I clicked on it before I realized what I was doing. My little sister won't let me eat her leftovers anymore. What do? This morning, I made breakfast as usual. My little sister loves it, and her cheeks look so cute when she's finished. When she was done, I went to take her plate, but she wouldn't let me. If I hadn't tricked her and said I didn't make enough for a second portion, I almost wouldn't have gotten any. This has been happening a lot lately. Has someone been talking nonsense to her? 8 a.m. is prime time for university students. I refreshed the page, and the comments flooded in instantly. OMG, is this English? Grandma, the sibling suspense update you love just dropped. Someone should be talking nonsense to her. LOL, the sister is a normal human. The poster is a menace. This is a sick trope, right? Honestly, my boyfriend doesn't insist on eating my literal leftovers. Almost wouldn't have gotten any. Dude, what are you regretting? Is your sister's saliva magical? Poster, that just means your boyfriend doesn't love you enough. I've taught my sister since childhood that family is the only lifetime bond, not some short, fragile hormone-fueled connection like a lover. I don't know. Everything she's tasted just tastes better. We've grown up this way. Unfortunately, she's in college now, so I only get this one meal a day. I can't compromise on this. User, you're complaining? If I had a brother like this, I'd run away overnight. Poster, why? She asked me not to sleep with her, not to kiss her cheek, and I listened. I've been very compliant. She can't leave me. User, wait. No kissing? I don't believe it. Poster, I keep my word. The morning kiss has been changed to her kissing my cheek instead. The atmosphere was still relatively playful until the newest comment popped up. Ghosted _by Venus. It's simple. She has a dog outside. Of course. She needs to be discreet. The term dog outside hit me like a physical blow. In the language of online forums, it meant a secret boyfriend. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. If Declan saw this comment, and let's be real, Declan probably owned the server this forum was hosted on, he would burn the entire campus to the ground just to find the dog. My thumb trembled as I scrolled. The poster, who I was 99.9% sure was currently sitting in his CEO office wearing a three-piece suit while obsessing over my leftover scrambled eggs, hadn't replied yet. That was more terrifying than a fast response. It meant he was thinking. I shoved my phone into my bag and practically bolted for the library. I needed to hide. I needed to think. I needed to figure out how Ava Sinclair, had become the prey in a game I didn't even know we were playing. I found a secluded corral in the back of the stacks, but I hadn't even opened my laptop before the air in the room changed. It wasn't a draft, it was a presence. That heavy, oppressive, sandalwood-scented certainty that always followed him. You're late, baby. I jumped, my chair screeching against the linoleum. Declan was leaning against the bookshelf, his arms crossed over his chest. He looked perfect, infuriatingly so. Not a hair out of place, while I felt like a frayed wire. I have a study group, Declan. I lied, my voice wavering. No, you don't. I checked your syllabus and your group's chat logs, he said, stepping closer. He didn't look angry. He looked attentive. You've been heart rate spiked for 20 minutes. Your smartwatch sent me an alert. You're tracking my heart rate? I shrieked, then quickly lowered my voice as the librarian glared at us. Everything in this house belongs to me, Ava, he whispered, leaning down until his lips were brushing the shell of my ear. Mom was very clear about that. And since you're currently the most precious thing I own, why wouldn't I monitor your health? I'm not a thing, I hissed, pushing him back. And I'm not yours. I found the papers, Declan. In the attic. The adoption decree. I'm a foundling. We aren't related. Not even a little bit. I expected him to flinch. I expected shock. Or maybe the Manny persona to crumble into awkwardness. Instead, Declan's eyes darkened, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. He didn't look surprised. He looked relieved. I know, he murmured, his fingers reaching out to trail down my jawline, catching a stray tear I didn't even know I'd shed. I found those papers when I was 14. Why do you think I stopped complaining about having to raise you? My breath hitched. You knew. I've spent 10 years playing the good brother because it was the only way to keep you in my reach without scaring you away, he said, his voice dropping into a register that made my toes curl. I played dress up with you because I wanted to see you in the clothes I chose. I watched those childhood videos because I wanted to memorize every version of you. And now. He pinned my wrists to the desk, his body caging me in. The Manny was gone. The wolf had arrived. Now that you know, he continued, his gaze locking onto mine with terrifying intensity, we can stop the big brother nonsense. I don't want a sister, Ava. I never did. I want exactly what Mom promised me. She said I belong to you, as a sister. I choked out. She said everything in the house, he corrected, his thumb pressing firmly against my lower lip. And I'm a very thorough accountant. I don't care about the labels. I care about the possession. He pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. It was the forum post. He had finally replied to ghosted_by_Venus. Poster, there is no dog. I've already checked the perimeter. If she ever tries to find one, I'll just have to put her back in the nursery. She liked it better there anyway. Declan, you're insane, I whispered, shivering. I'm devoted, he countered, leaning in until our noses touched. There's a difference. Now, are you going to come home and eat the lunch I made you, or do I have to carry you out of this library in front of all these dogs you're so worried about? He released my wrists, but he didn't move away. He just waited, his hand extended, certain of the outcome. He had raised me, after all. He knew exactly which buttons to push to make me compliant. I looked at his hand, then at his eyes that held no brotherly affection, only a dark, shimmering hunger. I realized then that my nanny brother hadn't been protecting me from the world. He'd been marinating me for himself. I'm not eating your leftovers ever again, I said, a final, pathetic spark of defiance. Declan laughed, a low, melodic sound that sent shivers down my spine. He leaned in and nipped at my earlobe. That's fine, baby. I've decided I'd much rather taste the main course anyway. The dinner Declan had prepared wasn't a meal, it was a territorial claim. When we arrived back at the Sinclair estate, the dining room had been transformed. The long, mahogany table was gone, replaced by a low, intimate circular one draped in white silk. There were no servants, just the two of us and the oppressive, velvet silence of the house. Sit, baby, Declan commanded, pulling out a chair that felt more like a throne. He didn't sit across from me. He sat so close our thighs were fused. He didn't hand me a menu. He picked up a silver fork and began to feed me personally. Declan, I have hands, I whispered, my heart hammering against my ribs. I know, but I enjoy the weight of your dependence, he replied, his eyes never leaving mine as he pressed a piece of perfectly seared wagyu to my lips. For 20 years, I've tracked your nutrients, your sleep, your growth. Do you really think I'm going to stop now that the brother mask is off? He leaned in, his thumb catching a stray drop of jus at the corner of my mouth. Instead of using a napkin, he licked it off his own thumb, his gaze dark and unblinking. Everything in this house belongs to me, Ava. And the best parts of this house are the ones that breathe. I felt a chill that was half terror, half electric heat. He wasn't just feeding me, he was savoring the fact that I couldn't even eat without his permission. Mom wouldn't want this. I tried a weak plea. Mom is the one who gave you to me, remember? He murmured, his hand sliding from the table to my knee, his grip possessive and heavy. She wanted a nanny. She got a master. It's a natural evolution. By midnight, the house was a tomb of luxury. Declan had gone to his study to monitor the perimeter, leaving me in my room. This was it. My last chance. I had a bag hidden under the loose floorboard in my closet, cash I'd skimmed from the allowance he meticulously deposited, a burner phone, and a pair of sensible sneakers. I didn't take the designer clothes he'd bought me. Those had trackers in the hems. I wore an old hoodie from middle school. I climbed out the window, sliding down the trellis I'd used to sneak out to buy candy as a kid. My heart was a frantic bird in a cage. I reached the edge of the estate, the forest thick and dark. I ran. I ran until my lungs burned, and the ginger tea felt like lead in my stomach. I reached the main road, my thumb out, praying for a dog to pick me up, anyone to take me away from the man who had raised me to be his. A pair of headlights cut through the fog. A sleek, black SUV pulled over. The door opened. Need a lift, baby? I froze. The world stopped spinning. Declan was sitting in the driver's seat, one hand on the steering wheel, the other holding his phone. He was looking at the screen, a small, amused smile playing on his lips. You really should have disabled the GPS in your sneakers, Ava. I told you, I'm a very thorough accountant. I turned to bolt back into the woods, but he was out of the car in a heartbeat. He didn't chase me. He simply waited until I tripped over a root. Then he was over me, his shadow swallowing me whole. I gave you an hour, he whispered, picking me up effortlessly. I wanted to see how far you'd get. You made it 1.2 miles. That's a new record for you. Let me go. I sobbed, hitting his chest. Never, he said, his voice a low, vibrating growl. You're going back to the nursery, Ava. I've had it remodeled. Soundproof walls. No windows. Just you and me, and all those childhood videos you love so much. He didn't take me back to my bedroom. He took me to the renovated wing of the attic. It was a masterpiece of obsession. Soft, plush carpets, a bed the size of a small continent, and a wall of screens playing a loop of my first steps, my first laugh, my first day of school. He sat me on the edge of the bed and knelt between my legs, unlacing my sneakers with a terrifyingly gentle touch. You're so tired, baby, he murmured, his hands moving up to my calves, massaging the tension out of the muscles I'd just used to try and leave him. You don't need to run anymore. I've taken care of everything. I've even withdrawn you from the university. You're going to be homeschooled from now on. You can't do that. I can do anything I want with my own property, he said, standing up and pulling me into his arms. He didn't kiss me. Not yet. He just held me, his face buried in my neck, breathing me in like I was the only oxygen left in the world. I've waited 10 years to have you without that brother label choking me, Ava. Now that you're here, in my house, in my room, do you really think I'm ever going to let you see the sun again? He pulled back, his eyes searching mine, filled with a hunger so old and deep it felt like it could swallow the room. Now, he whispered, his hand sliding to the back of my neck, tilting my head up. Kiss your big brother. And this time, make it count. I looked at the screens on the wall. Thousands of Avas, all being watched by the one man who had never looked away. I realized then that I hadn't been raised to be a woman. I had been raised to be a prize. And the winner was already home.